Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be working on the Grand Prix, and what I'm going to be doing is buttoning up a bunch of stuff that I wasn't able to do in the last video because I didn't have the parts. So in the last video, I was able to install the LS4 with the 4080 transmission, get a bunch of the wiring done, as well as modify the wiring for the transmission, and get the computers in, the axles in, etc. So there was one issue I had with the driver's side axle, and that was, I'm not sure if it's too long. It should technically be the correct axle, but it is bound on the transmission side, or really compressed on the transmission side and not on the driver's side. So I did order the correct axle, and once I get this one out, I'm gonna pretty much compare them to each other. Hopefully this is the correct axle. Also, I need to put the oil filter housing on, oil filter, then I need to put oil in the engine, radiator, fan, and there's some wiring down there that runs to the alternator, this one that goes to the ABS wheel speed sensor, and just some things that I need to clean up. Once the radiator is in, I can put coolant in it, and then I should be able to throw a battery in here. I need to make a battery, positive and negative, one to go to the fuse box, one to go to the battery, and I should have all that stuff here. So other than that, I need to figure out what I'm going to do about a shift cable, because we have, I need to remove the one from the Grand Prix and plumb the one for the Cadillac into the Grand Prix, as well as change the shifter. So hopefully by the end of this video, I can get this thing moving under its own power. I also just remembered that I need to put transmission fluid in it, and I need to make some transmission lines. So hopefully I could figure that out as well. I'm probably gonna have to go home and get my flare tool. I now have a transmission cooler on the Grand Prix, and these come with an internal transmission cooler inside the radiator, but I had to make lines because I'm running the 4080 transmission, and this was just kind of easy. So I got this Ford transmission cooler just off a car in the yard, and it actually looks pretty factory. It mounts up to this bottom hole, and then I just cut a piece of bracket, screwed it in there, good to go. This has a 90-degree line with a flare on it, and then I use the 4T65 line for the front of the transmission, and it had a hose, cut the hose, put the clamp on it, looks factory. This side, I need to go grab my flaring tool as well as the tool to cut these. I had a lot more room, so I have a larger one here, but I need a small one to cut the tube right there. Then I could run a rubber hose after I flare it from there to here, we'll have the tranny all buttoned up, all the fluid, the tranny cooler and stuff. I'll probably end up putting a different transmission cooler on here eventually, probably a lot larger one, but we'll see what the transmission temps come out to be with this one. And then on the other side, I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to mount the power steering cooler. So the power steering cooler is right there. You can see there's a bunch of lines and stuff going on. And the lines come out from the power steering system on this side. But for some reason, the cooler is all the way over here. The oil filter housing right here, it was kind of in the way, so I pushed them up. Then there's just a ton of lines and stuff over here, and I just didn't want them there. So I cut them off. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna flare the lines, run some rubber hoses, have the cooler over here. And I don't know why the GM engineers didn't just put the cooler on this side instead of having a mile of just lines, bent lines everywhere. So that cleaned up a lot of stuff over here. I also cleaned up all the wiring over here. I didn't put any loom on it, but I have the power wire and the signal wire to the starter just going above it right there. The oil filter housing's on, and it's a lot easier to access without all that power steering line stuff going on. And down here we have the starter, and I have the power wire. I just need to get another connector so I can screw it on right there. And then there wasn't any information on which way the starter went. So the starter goes towards the front of the car, and then there is this plate right here to adapt this starter to this oil pan, and the larger distance right here is on the bottom. So I don't know how many people are going to do this swap, but yeah, that's a pretty good tip. And then I didn't have to extend these wires at all, so I just have to modify this one, and then they just go over the starter. And I think you could I don't think you could do that if you run the stock loomed harness. So if you don't de-loom it and rerun all the wiring, you'll probably run into some issues and have to extend them. And I'll probably end up redoing this harness eventually anyway. So we'll have the power steering cooler over there, tranny cooler over there, and I still need to get the radiator and everything in here, which somebody said I could get them in through the bottom, but I'm not exactly sure. So I may end up having to drop down the subframe one more time, but other than that, I need more air to go into the tranny cooler, and I think this is a turn signal up here in this light. So there's also a turn signal. I think this is a turn signal or a running light. I'm gonna delete that, open up that part of the bumper a lot more, and then I'll get more air into that tranny cooler. And then over here, there isn't gonna be anything yet, but I wanna put an oil cooler on this car eventually too. got the Grand Prix pretty close. I was trying to get the radiator in and broke it. So I angled it in this way, but then when I came over and had it, pretty much it came perfectly underneath that, and then it got caught on this lip. And when I raised it up, it pretty much just cut the whole neck, or put a pretty good gash in the neck where the radiator hose clamps on. So I didn't want to use that radiator because I know it's going to give me a bunch of issues. And I think what I have to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to drop the engine pretty much, you know, probably a few inches down, which will give me a lot better access to getting the radiator in. Just kind of unfortunate that I have to do that. I wish I would have known that I needed to put the radiator in first. I probably should have done it in the first place, but that radiator was kind of bad looking. I cleaned it up, but it had all kinds of nicks and bends and stuff in it. So I have a new set of fans. I think they're just China fans though. I'm kind of concerned about those as well. I have the box right here, really just says cooling fan, so I have no clue. So what I might end up doing is I'm gonna need to do some stuff with the turbo system once I turbo it. So I don't know if I want to order the larger radiator for this thing, because I might have to modify a bunch of stuff. So I might just, we'll see what happens, but I might end up putting a Civic radiator in here, one of the half radiators, because I want to put two of those right next to each other. We'll see. I might put one in here just so it pretty much runs and drives. I'll throw the fan on there, and we'll just kind of see. I have the 160 degree thermostat. We'll see maybe what our temps are and stuff like that. But right now, what I want to do is get this shifter assembly out, since I don't have a Civic radiator and I really don't want to mess with this anymore today. I'm going to get this shifter assembly out and run the cable into the car, pull the old cable out, and then figure out how I'm going to modify this, because I do need to modify that. Another issue I'm having, it might be because the battery voltage is low, but I thought I was going to be able to get this thing started today, and it just does weird stuff. So the security light goes off, but it's like the hazards are on or something. Look at this. These lights are all flashing all crazy and weird. So it doesn't do anything. It's weird. I have no clue what's going on right now. I was able to jump the starter relay, as I've done before and showed you guys. I jumped it, cranked fine. Sounds like she has really, really good compression. But other than that, I don't know what, I'm going to throw a new battery. I have this half-size Odyssey that was in my FD. I've had it on the trickle charger for years. Probably a couple of years just sitting there, but it's been on a trickle charger and it showed that it was good. But when I go through the menu on this, it says it has 9 volts. So then I hooked up the battery that I know starts a Pathfinder I use in the yard car, and it still showed like 10 volts. So I don't know how that's possible. But what I'm going to do, probably get a known good battery and then just try to hopefully fix and resolve this issue where it's not starting. And then I think all the wiring's completely done. Another thing that I might be going on is when I rewired that plug, which I really didn't do much. I just jumped that one pin, and I had the ABS pump unplugged. Maybe the ABS pump's bad. I'm not exactly sure. But let's get this shifter cable situated in the car, get the old one out, get the shifter assembly out, because I have to modify it. Figure out what I'm going to do with modifying that, and probably wrap this video up, because I'm kind of getting tired of working on this thing today, and I really wanted to get it so it ran and drove. But we are pretty much full of fluids other than coolant. Get the new shifter cable in, which I have in right now. It's kind of a pain. So what I did and how I figured this out was by trial and error. So just pull the shifter cable in as far as you can, and then instead of trying to go through that hole where the old one came out, just push it underneath this air duct right there. And you actually have to move the carpet up because it is impossible to get it to go back through the way it came out. So easiest way, just go under that air duct and just pull it through after you get one side. It's kind of a pain. So I'm gonna put all this carpet stuff back together. The carpet and everything is now back together in the Grand Prix, and we have the shifter cable ran. How you run it, I pretty much just, you know, it's pretty tight because it's a shorter cable, just comes up through here and then goes to the firewall and then goes back to where I showed you underneath the carpet. So I was hoping to get this thing running, but I'm having some weird issues with it not starting, and it's showing that I have low battery voltage, which I don't have a voltmeter here, so I can't really check it. So I'm gonna bring a known good battery. I thought this one was good, but because it started the 3000 and then the other battery started the Pathfinder. So it should have started this. So I'm not sure if it's a triggering issue. It did crank the car, but it might, there's so many electronics in this thing, it might just not be enough. It might just be too low to actually do everything because there's heads-up display, a bunch of other stuff. So I should be able to get that. I also need to have the guy throw go in here with HP tuners, tune for the cam, tune the transmission. You have to reverse some things because it is the 1480. The shift logic, I guess, is different, just so I could use the old TCM instead of swapping in a 1480 TCM. But other than that, it's getting very close. I also need to get a new radiator, which I'll probably figure something out with that. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna order a full-size aftermarket one or do something else. But if I do order a full-size aftermarket one, I'm going to, or like an upgraded thicker one, I'm gonna have to definitely drop the engine with a subframe down, which I shouldn't have to disconnect anything really. Maybe, you know, this battery cable and that stuff, but I'm not going to go far enough down to really make any difference. So other than that, over here in the next video, I'm also going to modify this. I think I'm going to modify this, going to figure something out. So because the 1480 shift, the shift orientation, I guess, is different, I'm gonna have to figure out how to make the Cadillac shifter and this one pretty much work together. So there should be kind of a pattern when you shift it. It goes up and down. It has little notches right there, and I should be able to put the one hopefully out of the Cadillac shifter into this one, or modify it so it works in this one, because I would like it to look pretty factory and be nice and clean and everything like that. So I'm gonna end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below, and in the next episode we should have this running. So as always, see you guys next time.